It's the old Doctor Who show, episode number 109, The Web Planet.
Go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine.
You couldn't control my mind before, and you certainly can't control it now.
Would you like a jelly, baby?
The TARDIS, when working properly, is capable of many amazing things.
Reverse the polarity of the neutron flows with the TARDIS will be free of the force field.
But the TARDIS is more than a machine. It's like a person, you see.
The resulting reaction is finding. Are you ready?
Welcome back to the old Doctor Who show, your tri-weekly classic Doctor Who review podcast. We are back in the hot seat.
Who's back? Who's back?
Who's back?
Who's that? That's Eric over there.
Yeah, it's Eric, and I'm looking at
You got Dan.
Dan, and this time we actually have video so we can look at each other.
Yes.
I can make Dan uncomfortable. Once
Not
again,
that you'd ever do that.
That's the magic
Never
sauce.
happened.
Dan, how are you? We're 3 weeks in. We have we said goodbye to WandaVision. I guess we said hello to Captain America and his friend, which I haven't seen, so I have nothing to add.
That's what this podcast is about. I enjoyed the WandaVision finale.
Yep.
I think I had higher hopes for it than could possibly be delivered. So I think calibrating expectations is important, but I do like what they were setting up.
I think that's fair, especially if you were like,
universe.
We're not going to throw a spoiler thing up again, but maybe we will. No. Minor spoiler thing.
Maybe.
But like something happened where I think the last time we talked, I was like, oh, they're going to be pulling in this guy from that universe. And none of that happened.
None of that.
None of that's real. But maybe it still could be real. Like it still could be real. Yeah. We shall see in Doctor Strange.
Which is like a year or two from they're filming it.
Yeah,
now.
I guess like originally because of COVID messed everything up, but it should have come out. COVID should have come out like a month or two after WandaVision ended. Right. So it was like a big get you to the theater kind of thing, and now that's all thrown.
Yeah, I think she went directly from filming WandaVision into filming Doctor Strange, and then all the anyway, so that's good.
So that's fine.
And other things that we've been watching,
what else?
Or that I've been watching, two things. I only just watched one episode of it. If you have Apple Plus, if you bought like an iDevice or anything,
Servant,
recently, you get that for free. No, I will not talk about that show.
I enjoy it.
I enjoyed the first season of that. It doesn't need a second season, so I'm going to pretend it doesn't exist.
That's fair.
The show I was going to mention is Calls. Have you seen the ads for Calls?
I don't even know what that means.
Okay, Calls, like telephone calls. It is maybe 8, I think, short episodes, like 15 minutes or less.
Like anthology?
No, it is It is a series of interconnecting phone calls. On the screen, what you're seeing is the text of it, as though it's printed out from like a 911 dispatch or something like that, but stylized, very stylized, with a lot of visuals that look like oscilloscopes or screensavers. It sounds really silly.
Wait, there's no actors in it? It's all text?
It is all done with actors. All you're hearing is voice, and you're seeing their text on the screen side by side with like kind of screensavery type effects. Bear with me. All the conversations have a narrative thread that link them, and it's some crazy sci-fi horror thing that's happening.
Sounds like a video game, but I guess it is a TV show.
Really engrossing. I only watched the first episode. I was going to jump into the second, but really well done. Recommend it with good speakers or headphones so you can kind of dive into it. And it's super
almost like it's
like
designed for an iPhone.
Kind of.
Oh wow!
But I was watching on my TV. The other thing, which is slightly related to Doctor Who.
Yes.
I can't believe I didn't know this existed. And I think that this is something that you would like.
I can't believe
considering
it's not
you like what's his name? Alan Partridge. It kind of feels like that a little bit to me. Is a show that's been
I just watched
seasons out.
Yeah, while you're in the middle of talking, I just watched This Time with Alan Partridge again for like the third time. It's so good. But go on, go on.
This is called Staged. It's been out for like 2 seasons.
That's also Apple Plus?
No, this is on Hulu right now, but I think it was I don't know what channel it was on in England. But it's a conversation between David Tennant, there's my link, and Michael Sheen The idea was that they were supposed to be staging a production of 6 characters in search of an author right when the pandemic hit, so they couldn't do it. So they're having these series of Zoom calls. They're friends in real life, so it's like the conversation between Michael Sheen and David Tennant about trying to go on with the show and do rehearsal over Zoom, and it's incredibly awkward. It's really uncomfortable. It's so well done. David Tennant they're both wonderful, but I mean, I just love David Tennant.
Yep.
He's so self-deprecating. Like, the character of himself that he's playing is a little bit slightly dim-witted.
Yeah.
and Michael Sheen is a little bit maybe on the edge of his sanity. It's really, really, really
All right.
funny.
Well, while we're distracting from Doctor Who, reviewing Doctor Who, but talking about Doctor Who, wasn't David Tennant in some show called Camping or something that was like, was that on Showtime? I didn't see it. Was that any good? I kind of remember seeing previews for it, and it was like David Tennant, but was it Hannah, whatever her name is, I can't remember, from Girls that did it, or did I make that connection up?
Oh, right.
Maybe I made that.
It stars Jennifer Garner and Juliette Lewis as well.
Is it a movie or a show? Who knows? We've lost whatever fans we had at this point are completely gone. We've had
It's related, folks.
I had a rough week. I don't even know what planet I'm on. Did it have anything to do with? Yeah, Lena Dunham. I called her Hannah because that was her character's name in Girls, not the actual person. But I was not crazy. She did create that show.
Yeah, there you go. See, that's
I don't know. Was that good? We don't know. Neither of us saw it.
Oh, and just last thing, let's mention David Tennant one more time. A podcast that I highly recommend that you could listen to after this, perhaps, is David Tennant does a podcast with ...
Yep.
And he has different guests on, and he's a really very good interviewer.
He does. And I believe you plugged that prior on the show when you had seen him interview
I still like it.
Scully, right? It was
Shoot Me. Like it. Yes,
what's her name? What's her name? She plays Margaret Thatcher. She's a wonderful
Juliana
actress.
Margulies. No. Julianne Moore.
No.
Roger
Scully.
Moore. Michael Moore.
What? I am very tired, people. But why aren't you saying Gillian Anderson?
Right.
Didn't he interview her?
Yeah.
Or did I make that up? It doesn't matter.
He does interview
Neil Gaiman,
Donna Noble, Catherine Tate, which is great, and Billie Piper, which is fantastic. Those were great
they were all actresses that appeared in the show. Doctor Who, hit the button. Let's get to the Web Planet so we can discuss another episode of Doctor Who.
This episode really bugged me. Where's that damn button?
Babs has the hookup.
Center of the web.
Do you know? No.
No one knows. An alien from the darkness of space, but the shape inside the cocoon.
But if it arrived here from another planet, surely someone must have seen it.
Our legends of it only begin when it was already thinking itself into the crannies of Vortis and the minds of the Zarbi, spreading its web.
Web Planet, Doctor Who. So let's just Google here and wiki there. This is the Web Planet, Dan. This is the 5th serial of the 2nd season, lucky number 2, of the show Doctor Who, which we've all grown to love, forced to review, 3 week in, 3 week out. The TARDIS ends up somehow being called to and then shut down on a planet. Not a planet of spiders, as the name would suggest. I mean, if you were anything like me and you went in and you said, oh, Web Planet, this place is going to be full of spiders. Not really. It's more of a Andrew Lloyd Webber-esque musical. Is Andrew Lloyd Webber the one that did the Zoo Animals on Wheels? That Get a Life parody stuff? What was where they're all on roller skates? Starlight Express.
That was Trains. That was Trains, though.
It's Trains?
Yeah, it's
all right, fine.
And I've seen that show.
Then use my reference to the Get a Life episode where they did Zoo Animals on Wheels. You remember where Chris Elliott was skating around? And, how would you feel? All right, so a lot of weird stuff happens. You've got your Yellow Jacket people. You got your roly polies. You got your ants that look like they must be exhausted and have terrible back problems the way they shot this. Meanwhile, they're all being controlled by an evil animus, which is a spider, kind of. So, Dan, what did you think of the web? Oh, and the doctor and his friends are there. Dan,
wow.
We got Ian.
I know that you spend
Barbara,
hours. You spend hours writing these summaries. Like, he will send me draft after draft after draft of these. I'm like, Eric, no, that was really good. Yeah. He's like, no, it can be better, and we just keep going back and forth. That was flawless.
I didn't have a lot of time this week, but I had to sit down and I had to put the time in for this. So, Dan, what did you think of...
It really shows. I got lost in your little narrative
there. Vicky, the genius young math girl. This thing kind of set the blueprint for what would become sort of the young companion who's also a genius at math.
So many of
them.
We got Zoe. Susan was to some extent, honestly, too.
She was, but I don't feel like they ever played up on her where they make a point of saying, how old were you when you went? And like, what's this? Aspirin? Yeah. What are you? Okay, but go on, Dan. That's for my time.
What am I talking about? My time down here.
Whether or not you liked Web Planet. You see this nickel? This is my wish, and I'm taking it back. I'm taking them all.
Are we doing a Goonies podcast?
Yes.
Yeah, actually, why don't we just reboot Goonies? Just you and I picking parts.
We'll play all the parts.
I overall found this to be a fun first Doctor story. It's for the time that it is. It's the second season. There's they've got a new cast member. We got to see Vicky come on previously, so now we're carrying on that. Great to see a companion from that early in the series, because we jump around so much, or have jumped around in our reviews so much, getting to kind of see her relationship evolve with the Doctor and Barbara and Ian as we're going. So that's kind of fun. It's a fun story. I think the Doctor's doing some interesting things here. Hartnell makes some interesting choices, mostly around how much and to what extent of insanity he starts giggling, but that's cool. I think there were some really interesting production choices. Some of them worked better than others. I think if they had a bigger budget, more time, this could have been really exceptional in terms of production design, special effects. But as it was, for the time, fun. It was a 6-parter. It didn't do so much, I think, of the retread back and forth. A lot of the criticism that I've had for stories around this time, especially multi-parters, is we spend a lot of time going back and forth between 2 different locations and doing basically the same thing each time with different characters. Just like, you get caught, you get rescued, you get caught again, you get rescued again, and that sort of thing. There was less of that, and that was cool. The number of alien races that we get to see, I guess they're all kind of related, but the variations that we see and their costuming and we can get into their acting and how they speak and move. I'm sure we will. That was very strong choices were made for these, which I respect, even if I don't think they were entirely effective. The flying was great.
Yeah, the flying was the highlight.
There's
personal
nothing
highlight
to be. Nothing you can possibly say about that wasn't great while they're up in the air, fluttering all around. That was pretty cool. So overall, it was good. Was it my favorite first Doctor story? No, probably not. But I liked it. Eric,
do I regret the tattoo? Yeah. No. What?
Eric, what are your thoughts on this story, which is entitled "The Web"?
The Web Planet. Well, Dan. There is so much that I liked about the Web Planet. However, you had said like if they had more time. I think they had too much time.
No. I meant like production time. I don't mean story time.
Right.
Mean,
there was too much
time building sets.
Yeah, six parts was too long, and not a ton of stuff happens. Like in the first episode, Vicky has a headache. Someone steals Ian's pen. Barbara has her own body horror thing going on until you realize it's her bracelet. And the Doctor tries to take Ian's pants off. That's all that happens in the first episode.
That's a lot. That's enough.
I guess. But I think it could have been like a 4-parter, and it would have done a lot better. But all of the choices that they made, the set design, it's cheap. Like you can see that it's so imaginative and different and cool, and it looks like you're looking at like Dr. Caligari or something, some like old film with the way that the sets are, especially when they get to like the Temple of Light. I think it's a Temple of Light, right? Where they're like looking up the shaft and everything, and just like the way that everything is.
Excuse me?
When they're all grabbing hold, the makeup and stuff was great. The costuming was really great. I liked the weird. It felt like you're watching like a stage play in the 60s, which you are, where everyone's dosed. It's like a Ken Kesey, Merry Pranksters have shown up, and now they're doing some kind of play.
Drink the Kool-Aid. Let's see what happens.
Yeah,
They let
like
Kool-Aid.
just all. Like, it feels like art students just let like, okay, you guys run with this one, and they're doing like all the hand movements are just weird, and the tone shifts in their voice, and the inflection of word, like it was all weird, and it put me like in a, again, hard week, put me in like a trance too, like listening to their vocal, like especially when the bee people or the yellow jacket people or whatever.
Sure.
But I was a little thrown off with the fact that it's Web Planet, and the webs have really nothing to do with it. The Doctor and Vicky get webbed up at one point, but otherwise webs aren't, like, why isn't this like Planet of the Insects or the Insectozoids or Sectors for you toy fans out there? Like the Animus is a spider, but a weird looking spider. Like Vicky calls her a spider, I think. Otherwise, she doesn't really look like a spider.
Nothing like a spider.
Right? And that whole scene was great to jump to the end when you see like how bright the light is, and rather than show this sort of weird looking spider, you get like the black screen with the white and then that disembodied voice. Yeah. That was awesome. Even though it was a weird way to communicate with the Doctor, they just stick that cone over his head, or like the clear cylinder over his head, and she starts talking to him. I thought that was really, really cool. I liked how the Doctor was dressed like a little ice cream man with his little white hat, like when they go out and they have like their little like jackets or whatever that they're wearing. That the Doctor doesn't mention, like after 2 hours they're useless. But then he's got like his little white hat that comes to a little thing, and he looks like he should be scooping in the back of an ice cream machine. Or in like a truck or something. Maybe that was just me.
I think that might have been you.
Why was Ian wearing a tie as a belt? Why was that? Remember when the Doctor's like, give me your tie. Ian's like, I'm not wearing a tie. The one around the middle. And then he starts taking his pants off, and he takes the tie out of his pants. Why was he using a tie? A tie for a belt? Did that something happen in the Romans? Because this happens immediately after the Romans, and we also get like a glimpse that Ian and Barbara had their adventure, and the Doctor and Vicky had their adventure, and they have not explained to them yet that they actually went into Rome.
Right, this is immediately.
It's immediately after, and they didn't have time to say, what did you do? No. Right, so was that something from the Romans that I just forgot, that he used a belt? Like his pants are coming down. It's fine.
I don't think so. Doctor just wanted to get in his pants. The whole.
I liked all of it.
Eric, the whole will they won't they between the Doctor and Ian is just that tension is.
Well, there's more of that with Barbara, I would say, and Ian too. Like it seems like the two of them still are always. I guess they're just friends, but there's some stuff going on there.
Yeah, they just really like each other. Like when a mommy and daddy really. What else?
The ants bump into the camera a couple of times. I felt like the whatever they put on the camera lens. I'm trying to think of like.
So they said it was Vaseline the
Vaseline,
myth, but it actually apparently wasn't. It was a specialized camera lenses for the weird streaky lens flare.
That was a cool effect, but after 6 episodes of it did get a little bit too much.
Yeah.
So it was like I liked a lot of this story in theory, and it just felt like the execution maybe this would have been great. If you could go back in time and get Jim Henson to make this using puppets in like a Dark Crystal type thing, this story would be amazing. It reminded me a lot of that sort of look and feel. Like it felt like a fairy tale more than it felt like sort of a science fiction story, and it would have been great with puppets.
I would say The only creature that so there's we have several different races that we're talking about. We have the Menoptera, the kind of like bee people with their with the wings. I think they looked incredible. The facial makeup was great. The costumes were really, really great. I think this is probably a case where black and white and low quality really helps hide some of the problems. But the wings look gorgeous. So that was really beautifully done. You have
and they had like a kabuki look to some of the makeup.
There's a lot of that going on. Yeah. So coming back to that in just a minute, but yes, for sure. Also, we had the larvae gun creatures. I thought they looked really cool with their little fringe for legs, and as they kind of the way they scuttle around was pretty cool. The ones that we see later towards the end, the Optera, was that right? No.
Which one were the Optera? What insect?
The underground ones.
Oh yeah, like the roly-poly looking ones that had gone down into the and like just all of the mythology was cool. So you had like they would have had wings, and then they took time to have they took those times to have scenes like at the end, because this also about the end. It ends and there's still 10 minutes, so it's like the story's over. But anyway, you do get that nice scene.
Frolicking around.
With the yellow jacket talking to the roly-poly, and he's like, "Will I fly, Daddy?" And he's like, "No, but maybe your kids will." So like that kind of thing was kind of interesting. All of that mythos.
And I love the design of the Optera as well. The facial, the mask, the kind of strange dread, almost like white dreads they had for hair. The roly-polies, like the constricted bodies with their knees kind of tied together, so the way they walked was shuffling or jumping around was really cool. The only one that I think didn't work well was the ants, and it was because it took just those the back legs, like it just ruined the entire effect of it, which is really unfortunate. I don't know how you would have done it better. I'm not a costume designer, what have you, but it was the only part that and you see them first, so it kind of like, oh no, what are we in?
And it takes so much effort for them to turn around. I felt so bad for the actors, like if they have to, like, especially if those, because there's lots of scenes with Vicky and the doctor, and then the ant, that one ant is sort of in charge of them, and they get like the wishbone from a turkey that they put around their neck, and like when he's got to remove it or take it out, he's got to like turn it. And I think in a couple of times the camera just went over to the doctor so that Vicky could put it on herself. That whole wishbone thing was weird. Like it just kept coming on and off, and then they figured out how to like make it not work.
Detune it or something.
On one of them, but then all of them didn't work. Right? But then it was like his ring allowed him to control him too, so there was that whole thing.
So that was strange. So it starts. The whole thing with the ring was interesting. I mean, this is second season. They're still building the world, the universe of what Doctor Who is. So they get trapped on this planet, pulled in by a force that they don't understand. The entire TARDIS is without power. Nothing's working. But the Doctor has this ring that somehow can power part of the ship. Their like astral maps and component or whatever else that does. He does say, like, whenever they bring that out of the TARDIS, and I think Ian was with him, and he was gonna like unplug it or something. You can't ever unplug it because we can't lose the connection of the, I don't know, space and time. Hootie what's it? Oh yeah, you must never unplug it. You must never break the time and relative dimension link. I thought that was gonna be like, oh well, they're gonna get trapped in time now. They're totally stuck. No, nothing ever comes of it. They just kind of call that out. But yeah, so they have this ring that has who knows what kind of power to it. So it can power that part of the ship. It can be used to power it to change the wishbone control mechanism. He uses that to then like signal to the ants to make them move whenever he's controlling it.
And he's very secretive about how it works.
What it does.
And to the point that they say that multiple times, and especially when he has to lend it out and he doesn't want to, and what does this do? And I will never tell you. Okay. So maybe is the ring make future appearances in Doctor Who? I was not aware of this ring, but it seemed like they were making it to be a bigger deal than maybe it ends up being.
Yeah, it was just a strange detail.
There's like a lot of.
It would have been. That's something that they would have used the Sonic for in later series. Yes, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of like interesting like cult like what a primitive culture, how one primitive culture sees another culture, or how one culture sees another culture as primitive. Rather, like, you have that scene about the aspirin, right? And she's like, it would be like putting leeches on you, whatever. And then she's whatever. But then you see that later on as like the Flying Yellow Jackets. What's the name of their race?
The Menoptera.
The Menoptera, when they're talking to the roly-poly people who are sort of more primitive, lower into the earth. And they're much more like, ooh, our God, and we're going to sacrifice you to whatever. And it's like, so it's interesting to see like all of the different sects and how, you know, what ranking they were. Because I guess the bee people are really going to be in charge. They sort of determine who gets to drink water. Even at the end, the water comes up, the ants are free of their mind control, and they're finally getting water. And then the bees are like, no, we're now in charge.
Right.
And they shoo them away, and then the real violence starts.
So there was going back to the history, they were explaining about what happened here, and let me see if I understand like what happened, because I don't think I do. This planet was lush, full of flower forests,
full of trees
and running
and
water,
forests.
and trees and forests and blah blah blah. And the Zarbi, the ant creatures, were just kind of docile cattle, basically, for the Menoptera, who were the main forms of life on the planet. But they are very peaceful, I guess, and just kind of fluttering around. And they didn't know all the while that there was this, what they call the Animus, was taking hold in the core of the planet and spreading out its web of whatever, literal and metaphorical.
In the trees, right? In the forest, the Animus started.
Oh, was it in the forest?
I think so, because at the very end, too, the guy's like, we will grow our trees again, but we will make sure that no Animus sets root in the forest or something. So I think it must have started in some kind of, I don't know what was going on. Because then there's the whole thing where, like, there's the acid, right? So there's, like, these acid pools where they take everything and they put it into the acid, and then it goes through all these pipes, and then that fed the cloud of death or whatever that was killing all the vegetation.
Sure.
Right? That the Animus
that was the
needed.
Food source of some sort for the Animus? Because when they had to... The Menoptera had their wings pulled off and taken to the Cave of Needles?
Yes.
Cave of Needles.
Needles? I think it's the cave. It's something of needles. They're slave camp.
It is the crater. It's a
crater of needles.
Obviously, a crater of needles.
There's the crater of needles. There was the temple or chasm of lights or something.
Sure.
Then there was another temple of the sun or something. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. Right?
Yeah, there's a lot going on, and at the same time, there's not a whole lot going on. Like you said, it could have been probably a 5 or 4-parter. And it's cool.
Because there was a lot of scenes that just were slow.
Yes.
Well, and a lot of people get plenty of time to talk in slow, sort of rhythmic movements. One of my favorite parts was, I think it was like Fantastic Mr. Fox that does this, where like when the animals sort of attack and they're like at each other, like the two, like the Yellow Jackets, when the new people come and then the old people are there and then they bicker and they're just doing like this thing right in front of each other, like it's very funny.
Yeah. So let's talk about the
Right, but were you? I'm sorry, I think I cut you off. You were explaining the whole
I don't know.
origin, right?
So there was the Animus. The Animus started taking over. Yes. It had the mind control over the Zarbi. So now they become enslaved and its enforcers.
Right, and then they retreat, right? So they retreat to the moon or something.
To a moon, yeah. But then there's this thing
where they're dying on the moon.
But it's like it's not enough for them to. It's enough for them to subsist, but not really live there. They want to get their planet back, but their weapons are useless.
Right, because they're forgetting how to fly. I think.
Anyway.
I mean, I imagine it's all an allegory for something.
There was what?
I imagine it's all like an allegory for something about.
Well, that's usually
how they
why
go to
I
the
ask you about
place
these things,
and they lose their spirituality or something.
Exactly. See, you tend to come up with the metaphor where I'm just watching it as though I'm a 6-year-old child. You, however, are like, no, this is obviously about communism, you idiot. So that's fine. But there was this other thing that beyond so the Animus takes over the planet, kills all the vegetation for whatever reason, because that's what it wants to do, and it also pulled in moons
Yeah,
orbit
I
into
didn't
around the planet.
Yes,
which was
not sure.
Okay, but that's like okay. So that was the explanation. Like, oh, the TARDIS got sucked into the same power, and there's like all the gold getting pulled towards the NMS, whatever. That was like a thing that it needed.
Yeah, I didn't understand that gold either. I didn't understand that, but maybe greed or I don't.
The gold is also the thing that's used on the wishbone.
The wishbone, and then her arm was being pulled because she had the gold bracelet that her old boyfriend or her almost boyfriend gave it to her, and the Romans
almost husband. Who knows?
But was there something about gold, or was that just hey, gold makes you greedy, and I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, the Doctor says at one point like. Beyond like what it's used for, like it's a symbol of power or something. Like I don't know.
Well, what about since we're not following any kind of story, the end though, like so they keep telling you, hey, the Wasp people, their weapons are useless, except they came up with this one thing that'll work. Somehow they know it's going to work. I don't know where they were testing it.
The isotope.
Or isotope or whatever it's called.
Isotope.
And the instructions they're like, make sure you aim it at the dark side.
Yeah.
I didn't understand. Like, they go in the room, it's blinding light. I think Barbara's the one that does it, right? So she gets her hero moment. But she's like, it's not working. It's not working. And she goes, he calls her there. And there's no dark part.
No.
It doesn't open. I thought she was going to throw it to Ian and he was going to hit it in the back, like the dark side of the moon kind of thing, but no. And then the plant or the spider queen or whatever she is dies. What was the dark part?
I don't know. I thought like, does that mean like above it because the light was emanating from the center of it? Like the creature design looked really cool. The room that they're in was great. The lighting was interesting. But I have no idea what it was supposed to be or how they were supposed to use this weapon.
Right.
And it was like, they didn't say this, but like, oh, your weapon's kind of basically useless. You can't do anything to me. Oh my God, it worked. Like, it's just like, it's all of a sudden, and it's a very like nothing's working. We're in trouble now. We're getting choked and knocked out, and oops, I guess it worked. And then I'm melting.
Ian's journey was sort of useless, except he had a thing with that insect lady, right? I mean, she walks by at one point, and he does a creepy Ian grab of the wings. And then there's another scene where they're like together, and he's doing something with her. Yeah, I gotta find you the gif of that, because that was like, oh, this is Doctor Who After Dark.
A little too hot for TV.
Yeah, it was definitely. They had to cut away. They pulled away. But he goes through the whole thing, and then they go to the roly-polies, and they get the roly-polies to be on their side, and then they like dig up, I guess, and then they end up popping up in that chamber. But for what reason? They didn't.
Yeah, I mean,
he didn't stop it or help it, or he just was there.
He freed them and like got them in touch, like the Optera in touch with them in Optera. And
I guess
he
bridged
them know.
the groups.
But it didn't have anything to do with the actual central part
really.
of the story, which is interesting because normally I would think that type of side, like B story that's happening, would be relegated to someone like Vicky or Barbara.
Yeah,
but no,
Barbara's the hero. She was the one that really saved the day.
And they all had their separate things. So Vicky was with the Doctor for the most part, and so they had their great interplay, which I really enjoyed between the two of them. Barbara had her own thing going on with the Menoptera. Then Ian's off doing his own thing. So they all have interesting things to do, but Ian is the one that has the least consequential. I mean, he's helping reunite these separate cousin species after all this.
And I really did like how unique all the different species were.
Yeah.
And it was really smart. Like, it just, even though you look at it, you're like, oh my God, it's one of the cheapest looking, like, I've never seen the camera get bumped into more or like silly things like that, but it doesn't matter. I mean, to me, it didn't matter. I loved all of the sets. I thought the sets were so cool, even though you could see how cheap they were.
The exteriors were, I mean, the matte paintings in the background were really effective, but like the actual practical part of the staging that they were using, I didn't care for all that much, but the interiors were awesome. I love the actors really committed to these insect roles, like how they all behaved. They were all very similar. The Menopticon all had similar tones and movements. The Optera were very different. But they were super committed to the way that they move and talk and jump around and everything. The vocalizations of the Optera, the underground roly-polies, that felt problematic to me. It was a little Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's, if you know what I'm saying.
Yep.
So I didn't. That was an interesting choice.
Yeah, which feels and that Doctor Who's done that quite. It feels like more than a few times.
Yeah, Talons of Yang.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was.
It's not great.
It's exactly where I was going.
But they looked really good. So
that was cool. And the Zarbi are the ants, right? Who?
Yeah.
Did you say the name of their guns? Their walking guns were. What were those called?
They've been called different things, but like they're basically like the larva guns.
Yeah, that's what they were calling larva guns. So they are just younger versions of the Zarbi
with shotguns.
That was cool. Like I liked all of that. It felt very like science fiction fantasy.
Yeah.
Like it could have been a comic or something.
And like cool. Those interiors with the Zarbi, kind of feels very claustrophobic in interior, and all the walls are like that semi-transparent with the webbing that kind of looked over, and the lights flashing behind it. They all looked really cool. All worked together. I even love like you're talking about the intercom speaker tube that would get lowered down over the Doctor's head so he could talk to the Animus. I thought that was really effective. Having the voice of the Animus,
she was great
off screen.
Yeah, the actress that did
very cool.
Yep, the actress that did her voice that was great. I liked anytime the Animus was talking. I liked that you didn't see it until sort of the end, and even then it was like we probably could have not even seen that. But I guess
right. But it was effective. I mean, I like that. So the big thing that we have to talk about is the vocalizations and movement of everything, but primarily the Monopticon. So, us guys, we try not to do any research period because we're lazy as hell, and also because we don't want to spoil anything in advance.
That's right.
We want to go into this fresh. Mostly the lazy part. But the actress who played Vrestin, the main Menoptera chick that Ian was macking on, I believe. Her name is Rosalind de Winter. It's been pointed out to us. We'll read some of the tweets as well. But in reading about this, she's a choreographer of some note. She was there to help them develop the stylized movements and vocalizations of the different insect-like alien races. And they liked her so much, they actually cast her in the lead role as Vrestin. So that was pretty cool. I like that it was, like I said, so stylized. Everyone really committed to it. It was all done in a very similar and distinct way, that each kind of race had their own kind of movements and ways of speaking that worked for them. I don't know what it was based on. I mean, I guess it felt like maybe Flight of the Bumblebee sort of thing, like how bumblebees kind of bounce around and don't go in a straight line. Like that's what I was thinking of as you're doing it. So like they kind of wiggle around. They don't really stay still because bees don't really do that. So it was evocative, I guess, of bees in that way. But overall, pretty effective. Just very strange and trippy in a way that I guess was effective in transporting. I don't want your opinion on that. That is done.
That's
so
done.
Next
That's
topic. No. What did you think? What did you think of that though?
I thought it was really great. I mean, I think I sort of rambled on about how it felt like I was on acid, and you go into someone's house because they're going to have the weed, and then you have to hang out with them and their girlfriend,
right.
and now they're doing a play. It was almost like, did you ever see that, what was that HBO show where they did the Dune play? It was like the Duplass brothers were in it. I can't think of the name of the show, but there was a show on HBO that got canceled, which I thought was funny. And the guy and his friend were obsessed with Dune, and they do a Dune play. You don't know what I'm talking about?
I don't.
It felt
like
that. It felt like that. Okay. But I liked it. I liked it because there's really nothing that we've seen in Doctor Who really like this.
No.
You know what I mean? It was just different, and I feel like just for being different, it gets my attention more. It's full of faults. And it's not perfect, but just the fact that it's so like ambitious in that it's going to go out, it's going to spend the time to do because I don't know if this is a popular episode or people hated it, but like it just seems like like they took a lot of chances with this one.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a lot of safe stuff. And I did like the flying a lot. Like I thought the flying was very effective, and it was more effective than I thought it was going to be.
It was incredibly. The first time it happens, I actually stopped and rewound it because I was so surprised by how well done that was. Like someone just walking and boom, took right off, and it wasn't any of this like.
And how many times did they say
ropes or anything?
How many times did they say spearhead?
So many times.
Right? It was like, okay,
Yeah.
all right, Spearhead.
Yeah. Spearhead.
And I didn't. So the doctor is using his map, and then he's getting the communication signal that is picking up off of the ships, right? But then the B people don't have a way to talk back to their, like, they keep sending these troops down that get captured, and they don't seem to have any way of communicating back to say, "Dude, everything sucks here, turn around." Like,
right.
You know what I mean? They have to wait for the whole ship to arrive, and then he's like, "Your weapons don't work, turn around." Like, there's no communicators.
You have to remember, like, there were the three of them that we see at the first Menoptera that we see that were like this advanced party before the Spearhead.
Yes.
They had this crystal-based communication device, and they're in a cave, and they're using that to make communication back and forth, but then they get discovered, so the first thing they do is destroy that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay.
But also,
so
like,
they work. Yeah.
Yeah, but, like, they don't, their weapons don't work on them, but wouldn't they know that from the first invasion?
Feels like they would. Although I think maybe they're trying as another...
So they built their own weapons on the moon, and but somehow they know this other bomb will work.
They don't know. They think. They think
seem
that it
pretty
will.
convinced
They
of it.
seem pretty confident. Well, because it's their only option.
Because they only have one
no
of them.
choice. They have to kind of believe in it.
It was fine. I did really enjoy the whole thing.
Well, good.
So
good.
You got that.
Do you want to know what other people thought about it?
Yes, Dan. And we also have
you do.
we also have some iTunes reviews. At least
okay,
one of them.
Well, that's cool. So we got some great feedback on this one on Twitter. I mean, this might actually be the most tweets about a story that we've gotten in a long time. But thank you, folks, for responding. Of course, on Twitter, we're at TODW Show. I put out a quick message letting you guys know that we were reviewing this story and wanted to know what we should be sure to cover. So you guys definitely got us a lot of feedback here. The first tweet I got back when I said, what should we discuss on the show? The first tweet we got back from a Matthew West says, how long you managed to stay awake for?
Oh, yeah.
Watching this one.
It does sort of put you in a meditative sort of slumber state. And I watched it in one
dream
sitting.
State.
I watched it yesterday, 6 parts back to back from start to finish.
That's like 2 hours, 15 minutes, maybe
Yeah.
just over 2 hours. Which I will say, I'm a masochist and watched the Zack Snyder Justice League.
Oh, why did we talk about?
I watched it in 2 parts,
Okay.
and I will say I fell asleep watching that,
All right.
but not watching this.
Here, I will one up you on that.
Okay.
I tried to watch Justice League, the Joss Whedon version. I made it 10 minutes in.
I've never seen it.
Whenever it came out, it was first on HBO. I couldn't.
Right.
I was like, whatever. And then the Zack Snyder thing came out, and I don't really like his
Morbid
movies.
curiosity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was very curious. But then I was like, well, I gotta watch both. So I sat through the Joss Whedon one so that I could see like what was, because I was actually more fascinated by like how much you can change a movie in editing and like what would be different. So I watched the whole freaking Joss Whedon one, which is not
hours
good.
of this
Not good
together. Yeah. Okay.
And then I watched maybe half of the. So I haven't finished the Zack Snyder one, but I watched half of it. I will say, and I'm not a huge Zack Snyder fan. I think he's super talented, and it's a lot of slow motion, too much slow motion for me. But it's a lot of stylized energy, and that's always been sort of how he is. But between the two versions, the Zack Snyder one is, for me, is much better. Like, at least I feel like it's much more epic, and I feel like there's a story there. Like the Joss Whedon one, just from the cuts that were made, it's just like, it just goes from scene to scene with like, and it's just not good. But I feel like the Zack Snyder one, from what I've seen anyway, is way better than the Joss Whedon one.
No, I mean, I haven't watched. Let me just put this out there. I didn't watch Man of Steel. I watched maybe a few minutes of that.
I saw it.
I watched the Wonder Woman movies. I've watched those.
I didn't
watch Aquaman. I didn't watch the Dawn of Justice League. So I missed a whole bunch of this, but I didn't really care. It's fine. I like Marvel more. other than like the 3 main DC characters that everyone loves. Like other than that, I don't really care. But I will say it is nice with the Zack Snyder thing. It is broken out into like
chapters,
an intro, 7 parts, and then an epilogue. So it does feel like, oh, it's 4 hours. That's a crazy long movie. Well, I will binge watch a season of a show.
If you got rid of the slow motion, I think it would be about 2 hours. Because
really
every scene is keep going. But there's so much stuff that's in slow motion. It doesn't have to be in slow motion.
No.
We don't
conversations
need
that
this
weren't
to
needed.
be in slow motion.
Part of editing is knowing what to cut back on. So thank you anyway for that first one.
And let's just jump back to the Joss Whedon one. Did you ever think, like, because I loved Buffy,
of course,
that he would go from like sort of being beloved to being hated? Because he's not a good person.
Apparently
the more stuff that you hear about him and people coming
forward
and everything.
Carpenter has a lot to say about him.
Charisma Carpenter thing, but I remember hearing stuff before it from, I guess, his previous wife, but it was such a strange switch.
The whiplash.
Yeah. But whatever.
Between Buffy, Angel, Firefly.
But when you watch, the his cut, like he added in, like, I guess the scene. I don't care if I spoil it because you shouldn't be watching it anyway. Like the Flash landing on Wonder Woman, and it's just like a dumb scene. But like you start adding all these things up, and you're like, I guess it's kind of like,
he's not.
He just has like a scene of, you saw the whole thing, right? So there's a part with the Flash helping Wonder Woman out. In the Joss Whedon version, he cut a scene where he saves her and he lands on top of her, so his head's between her boobs. Like he's like on top of her, and then he like runs away. It's like, like, uh-oh, I can't believe I did that, or whatever. It's just like a weird thing. And apparently he wanted to add that to Age of Ultron, and it would have been someone on top of Black Widow, but they cut it. But he's like, this is one I gotta get in somewhere. And
it is my creative vision. I've been dreaming about this for 20 years. I need to get weird. Okay, leaving that aside.
And in Alien 4 Resurrection.
Oh my God. Okay, so Dieter K on Twitter. Back to that. Remember we were talking about Twitter. Gives us a single panel from a comic version of this, where the Doctor's being carried away by a Zarbi, which is pretty cool. And he says quite a bit to unpack here. Let's see, who is this here? I can't read the script for their name. Let's say it's Sean Franco. There we go. Sean Franco says, wants us to talk about how they looked at 2 Terry Nation stories from season 1 and said, let's just combine these into a new story no one will notice. Which 2 Terry Nation stories?
Well, it's got to be...
I'm no Doctor Who expert. I've only been reviewing 110 different stories. I don't know anything about this show. Which 2 stories do you think we're talking about here, Eric?
Well, the Daleks, right? And the Dalek invasion of Earth. Probably, was that season 1? I don't remember. There was the Daleks.
Does that play into this story, though? I mean, I don't remember thematically, or in a way that would make it seem like it's the same plot?
You would have to ask yourself, do I remember that story of the Daleks? Other than Babs in the truck? I think that's the one where Babs is driving the truck looking for blood. I just looked it up. So Terry Nation also wrote The Keys of Marinus, which we didn't review. And that's from season 1. So maybe that is what he's referring to.
Let's pretend that it is.
Yep. And then there was the Dalek invasion of Earth, and then there was the Chase. Did we see the Chase?
The Chaser?
Just the Chase, the Chevy Chaser.
Chevy Chaser.
That's from season 2. No, so it's not the Chase.
Nope. All right.
So it has to be
good.
That one or
and the Mariner.
Yeah. Dalek invasion of Earth.
Our friend Bernard says what we should talk about is how brilliant this is. Everything Russell T. Davis who isn't. And he goes on to clarify,
finds a way
he says, by which I mean Russell T. Davis himself targeted the web planet as everything he didn't like in Who. So there's a little bit of conversation about this, specifically. Another Twitter user, Graham Murray, responded to that saying, where did he do this? I'm surprised because he, Russell T. Davies, referenced this story twice in dialogue in his first Doctor Who season in 2005, and then again in the first new series, Doctor Who Annual. So that's interesting.
Well, what was the response to that?
So this got a little bit of a thread. Hair of the Hound, our friend Hair of the Hound says, I think he added a reference that In the Face of Bo comes from the Aesop galaxy, so the Aesop taupe. The Web Planet may not be the kind of story Russell T Davies wanted to relaunch the show, but would be very surprised if he didn't absolutely love the Web Planet. Graham Murray then responds to that the Venom grubs, or what we call the larvae guns, are mentioned in Boomtown and the Aesop Galaxy in Bad Wolf, two of my favorites. And in 2005 annual, I recall the reference to the Time War disintegrating the carcinome walls of the greater animus. The carcinome would being the web walls that Ian gets his face all stung up with nettles. So that's pretty cool. And Graham lastly says, that's 3 more direct references to the Web Planet in 2005's Doctor Who than there are to Gallifrey, Skaro, or Davros, which is fair, but it's very early in the life of the show for that. But interesting. Anyway, I mean, it does feel... I don't know. Is there anything here that you want to talk about in terms of the style of this story? You had said earlier this doesn't feel like some of the other stories that has a fairy tale feel. It kind of wakes you up in how different it is. Do you feel that way about this versus like the New Who, especially the first few years? Or
this is like could have been like a Neil Gaiman Doctor Who story or something. But no, I would not have thought like Russell T Davies would be the antithesis of this kind of storytelling. It just felt different for some of the classic Who stories. It's just bonkers a little bit because it's so...
It is bonkers. Agreed.
It's got all of that sort of layers, but I wouldn't have... I don't know. What was the question? I don't remember.
That doesn't matter anymore.
Okay,
moving on, because we're coming at some time here. Doctor Who novels on Twitter. That's Dr. Who novels.
Hey, Doctor Who novels.
Says the scripting is so awkward that the only good lines are when Hartnell breaks character or ad-libs, in parentheses, the hairdryer comment, and Ian worries his pants will fall down. That's your affair, not mine. And how much better it gets when Martin Jarvis shows up and talks fast.
Which one's Martin Jarvis? Is he one of the possibly a bug person of some kind?
Yeah, that is
humans. It is interesting because like how many Doctor Who stories are there really with absolutely no, like it's all creatures,
right?
No human or even aliens, but clearly a human person. It's like all costumed people.
Yeah, someone actually mentions that. We'll get to that as well. But that's true. Like there are no they're all very distinct alien races, given the constraints of the time, budget, and whatever.
And is it weird that the ants are the only people that don't talk?
Nah, they're cattle. Just cattle.
How bad? I mentioned it before, but how, like, their backs. Could you imagine doing a whole day of shooting, like, bent over like that?
The BBC famously pays for massages. Just in general. I mean, you just get...
That's what the BBC
Who Can Convince You podcast says, I really like this one. My co-host, not so much. Well, in this case, the two of us, I think we're in agreement about we both liked it. Let's see. Twitter account, Homeschooled Film School, great name, says, you guys picked this one. I'm very amazed at the quality of the effects while I'm checking this out on BritBox. Yep, BritBox is the way to go for us as well. The quality of the effects were great.
Little thing about BritBox. I just saw they posted, I guess they're adding in a lot of the DVD stuff. So there's supposed to be like featurettes and stuff from classic Doctor Who being added to. I don't know if they're up yet, but I think that's on its way.
That is stuff that I would love to be able to see. Sometimes we hunt that down on like YouTube. You can find some of those things, but I just rather get it legit instead. That's pretty cool. Let's see. Our friend Misfit Scully says, "Hi guys, the Web Planet is great. This should be dull if all you only read was the outline. I love the sets. Adore Daphne Dare's costumes. The music by Le Structure Sonore. Vaseline smeared lenses and flying scenes. What's not to love about a Zarbi bumping into the camera?" So there you go. Mm-hmm. And also supplied some artwork there, which I thought was pretty cool there. And goes on to say, what's not to love about Venom Grubs? I try to spot the operator's hands. And enjoying the main cast, who are all just great. Bill Hartnell at his best, waving his arms around, trying to communicate to giant ants. That was a pretty funny scene. I hope you like my poor painting of a Menoptera in the previous post. I think it was a great painting. We will be sure to put that onto the show page for this, if you don't mind. That was pretty cool. Thanks. Another Twitter user, Michael Foe.
Michael Ironsides.
Michael Ironsides says to someone else, look at Beck's Lucinda Wood. I know you think that Doctor Who is all shit acting, wobbly sets, and cheap effects, but when it is pure transformative art, just look.
And transformative is the operative word here, with the beautiful butterflies. I guess none of them were butterflies.
They weren't.
They were almost butterfly-like.
No. And if you think about the Optera that could turn over a couple generations into the Menoptera that have the wings, then sure, Eric, you're
not really, but it's fine.
Just perfect. No, you're perfect. Let's see. David Richardson says what you were just thinking there. The only story with no human or humanoid characters. Mm-hmm. I would say they're humanish, but they're only
played maybe with a human actor that you can see their face.
Well, yeah, and I would say that again, if we were talking about like if Jim Henson had done this, they'd probably be even less humanoid. They could probably.
Although I did see I think you can see the face of the people in the ant costumes through that little hole in the chest, and you just see a very disappointed and tired little British man,
just huffing and puffing. Just I can't believe.
Don't make me turn around.
Let's see. What do we got here? Oh, I did post a quick GIF of all the flying and running around, Benny Hill style, of all the insects back and forth there. And I said, what did we get ourselves into with this story? And says, until it lands and the close-up shows it's just a man in a suit, the Menoptera is briefly impressive. I think all of the flying sequences.
I liked the fight. Yeah, I really did.
There's a fight scene when they're doing the spearheads kind of landing, and even though it was like just a handful of actors, like a couple of Menoptera, a couple of Zarbi, but they shot it, edited it in such a way that it looked like more of a battle scene than it was. A lot of people flying in. I thought it looked pretty damn cool. So
it was good.
Let's see. Is there anything else here? We've already talked about this. Let's see.
Did we get emails?
The World Enough in Time podcast does say, if you two don't describe this as a fever dream, I will be very surprised. Well, we didn't say fever dream.
I don't know if we did. I believe I said instead. Acid trip or opium. Acid trip. It's more of like a opiate-based.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's 100% true.
Yeah, Andy and Alex, true. I hope that counts. That it is an acid trip more so than a fever dream. And lastly, Brian says they should have just kicked it in Rome for another 6 weeks. And hey, they were living a high life.
And it is weird though that they never said that they went and had their whole adventure.
None of that.
But it's also like adds to the, because these things are usually one and done thing, but it really is building on that continuous story kind of thing, which is cool.
You can't stop having a good time with these folks. So that was all the Twitters at TUDW Show. Of course, we also got an email here. You can email us at theolddoctorwhoshow@gmail.com. This is from our friend who on Twitter is Hair of the Hound. Writes in to say, hey, Eric and Dan, the Web Planet is a work of genius, and anyone who tells you otherwise is clearly a simpleton. I'm glad we have no simpletons in our audience today. Fantastic. Goes on to say, episode 1 ends in a quadruple cliffhanger that puts all the TARDIS crew in peril simultaneously. I thought the cliffhangers were actually pretty good in all of these.
Yeah.
We had Barbara wandering around, almost about to step into an acid pool. People in various states of... Oh,
yeah, you like that one. Like, Barbara's, like, walking into the acid pool, and you're like, uh-oh, and then it just... Then they just make her turn and then walk. So it's like, okay.
That was not that. She wasn't in that much danger. I mean, you had collapsing tunnels underground with Ian and his Menoptera girlfriend. We had we didn't mention the Doctor and Vicky getting captured at the end of episode 5, and they get sprayed down with like a wet goo.
They get, and that thing just comes out of the wall, which you could interpret that as something else. There's some kind of truck stop thing going on. Comes out. They get doused. But that was the thing. Is like the web part of the Web Planet really has no effect on the story.
I think it was symbolism.
I guess. But it wasn't even like when you were outside, everything was covered in webs. Not
not
really.
No. Yeah, I think there's nettle things, but that wasn't even really it. I don't know. Going on to say it has 5 new alien species: the Zarbi, Menoptera, Optera, Venom,
a lot.
Animus.
A lot of costumes.
Going on here. The most famous credit in all of Who, quote, Insect Movement by Rosalind de Winter, which you can buy on T-shirts and various merchandise. Get into it.
I like that.
Genuine Grisly Deaths by Acid and Being Pulled Apart by Zarbi. And an aerial battle in the studio. So they did that all practically, which is pretty great. Finishes up by saying, an attempt to attempt even a fraction of what the story achieves given the resources and budget, parentheses, and the fact that it's effectively having to be a different show every month, is an act of sheer audacity, imagination, and generosity that all Doctor Who should strive for. As the kids say, we have no choice but to stand. I don't know what kids say. You have kids.
I have kids. They are.
They stand.
They do say "stan," I guess, for
neat
for their K-pop. It's so K-pop. I talked about that already on here, right? How K-pop focused my house is.
No, I don't know. You have.
God,
I love that for you.
Oh my God,
love
they
it.
go deep. If you want to talk about Stray Kids or BTS or Weekly, just come over.
Let's save it for the other podcast.
We'll talk.
Okay, cool. So that's what we got for the emails. Again, the old Doctor Who show at gmail.com. Eric, you teased something earlier that has had me
Well,
I
got to tell you, I peeked the review. So we got a review. Okay. And it's kind of depressing, but not in a bad way. But okay,
depressing in a good way.
This is going to depress you probably as well. All right, so this is a 5-star review.
Which is the only type that we accept.
Perfect. This is from Alex Jones and the Federalists. Which is interesting. I wasn't expecting him to be a reader, but awesome. Most self-aware podcast out there. And this opening part is what kind of depressed me a little bit.
Boy, this is going to be rough.
I've been listening to your podcast since my junior year of high school. Now, we've been on air or whatever we are.
On the air, on the bits.
He's probably out of college now.
He probably has 3 kids.
Right?
He's looking forward to retirement real soon.
I don't know
if this forever.
Alex Jones, I assume Alex Jones is out of college.
They have been doing
this guy's name is Grant, so thank you, Grant. I'm going to read your whole thing. But Grant is probably out of college. We've been doing this for so long. If he's a junior and then senior and then 4 years, he's probably...
Happy graduation. I hope your final year in COVID year was better than it was for others.
Okay,
so
let me go back to it. I've been listening to your podcast since my junior year of high school, and to this day, I still have memories of listening to you two while zipping down the interstate carefully, trying to make it to school before the bell rang. By far, my favorite podcast about any fictional series because of how completely aware y'all are of the extra thick coating of cheese and that that classic Who comes with. I'm having trouble reading. Commentary is top notch, and the pre-podcast section is great too. I found many great shows from it, most notably Twin Peaks. Oh, thank you. I'm glad that I was able to.
You did it. All this was worth it. We can put down our microphones. We're done. Walking away.
Oh, this is a nice thing. Now it's going to go into me being able to sell you something. Also, question for Eric. I've been thinking about reading some of your comics. Please do.
Stop thinking about it and start buying them.
Okay, which comic of yours would you say is your favorite? Impossible to answer that one. Or is there one you would like people to read in particular? Well, right now I would say I want all of you to pre-order Goblin, which is a fantasy adventure graphic novel. It's coming out on June 8th. It is, 10 years old and up. So it's completely safe for middle grade kids, but I think it's totally something I would read. I think it's fine for adults. That I would recommend. And I will point out that World Enough podcast, which we talked about, which you can find on soundcloud.com/World Enough. Super nice people who have pre-ordered my book. So how nice is that they pre-ordered it. So yes, I would recommend that you do that. And if you go on the Amazon page right now, there's a bunch of pre-orders There's a bunch of preview images, and there's actually a trailer. You can see what it's about. If you like science fiction, sort of action, adventure, mystery, there's Gregory Suicide, which on Amazon right now I think you can get for $5. And it's a nice looking hardcover. If you like Twin Peaks, I would probably recommend that maybe you check out Dead Horse, because that's probably a little bit closer to that as well. But yeah, no, the book, now that it's in pre-order, the more pre-orders we get, the better chance I have of selling more when it comes out. Cool. Dan, did you just disappear?
I'm still here.
Okay, I lost your video. But yeah, thank you very much, Grant, for such a nice review, and I hope I answered your question.
That's awesome.
Did I answer his question? I probably did.
Probably did.
If you want to,
it's a 5-star review.
Yeah, if you want to be like Grant and get me to tell you about pre-ordering my book, you can go to iTunes, or you can go to Spotify, or you can go to Google Play. Is that what it is? Google Play? Or Stitcher. I think just about anywhere you can get a podcast, we should be on. We generally just read the iTunes or Apple ones, because I don't know if the other ones haven't. I don't have no way of knowing. You can't leave a review on Spotify, can you?
I don't think
you can. So I think that's the only place, if you put it, and whatever you put up on there, we read. So good or bad, preferably good.
Preferably 5 stars or even more. If you want to add some extra stars in the review, that'd be great too. But thank you for that. That's very uplifting and puts a lot of things in perspective about how long we've been doing this.
I know. It's been, when I think about he has, that's like a nostalgia thing for him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's just, that's weird.
It still feels like, honestly, folks,
that we just started this.
We've mentioned this before. Every third Sunday, when Eric and I frantically start texting back and forth to each other, what time are we doing this? Okay, let's get it set up. All right, I need another half an hour. Wait, I'll be right there. I miss his call. He misses my call. We get it set up. We do the recording. Something goes wrong. Right. The audio. It's as though we're doing it fresh every single time. And this is someone who grew up listening to our show. Weird. This is not good. Anyway, so this is the last episode we're doing. Hope you've enjoyed. Our contract is over.
Well, we have 72 more weeks left.
I was gonna.
So that's at least a year and a half, right? It's about a year and a half.
72 more. We do one every 3.
Yeah. So the number of episodes, we have 24 to review every 3 weeks.
24. Okay.
That would be 72 weeks of the show left. How old?
Okay. Yeah, we got 2 more years of this. It's going to be great. Speaking of which, though, what do we have next, Eric? Next, we have The Mutants.
Oh, yeah. So we jump to, that's a Pertwee story, right?
Yeah,
The Mutants.
We got Mutants coming up.
So we're going to jump back into Pertwee, so I hope you can find that one. You should be able to find that one in BritBox, or if you want to buy the DVD, you can order it right through our website, and we will get a little taste from Uncle Bezos. A little carve out, a little bit of Bezos. Yeah, and then we have only a couple of more, and I'm kind of relieved, only a couple of more Hartnell ones left. As much as I like Hartnell, I do.
I do too.
We've got the Chase, the Time Meddler, Gunfighters, and War Machines, and then pretty much it's going to be Pertwee and Tom Baker from here on out.
Yeah.
So it's exciting.
Very exciting. Very exciting. Yep. Folks, we did it. We got through another one.
Yeah.
We love you all.
Did you give our email out or the Twitter out? Or
I gave the email. I gave the Twitter.
So you got it all.
On the Instagram, we're also at TODW Show. You can see the GIFs that we post. When this show drops, you'll see whatever GIFs I decided to come up with while dropping acid in a fever dream. Eric, if people wanted to send us anything.
Oh, real things.
Physical
things. P.O. Box 2131, Red Bank, New Jersey, 07701. Oh, thank you for saying that, Dan, because we did get, I don't often get out to check the P.O. Box, but we got a very nice card for the 100th episode, and we got another card for maybe for the holidays or something. Which was super nice. Let me see here if he puts his, I know it's from Paul, and I think he's at PWARING on Twitter. So thank you very much, Paul. That was very kind of you. Yeah, I had some other Paul, I think Paul Paranoid or something. I had originally thought it was from him, but it was not. It's from this other Paul. So thank you, Paul. And no thanks to you, other Paul.
The old Doctor Who show is really hitting that Paul demographic in a hard way. It's really paying off. That's what we've been focusing on. Finally. That's
all those targeted Facebook ads have finally
just Pauls around the country.
Yeah.
All right, folks.
All right.
Thank you so much. We will talk to you again in 3 more weeks.
3 more weeks. See you guys.
You need us, like a clam needs a shell, like a prisoner needs a cell, like a ding dong needs a bell. You need us. You need me. You need me, like a picture needs a star, like a golfer needs a par. Like teenagers need a car. You need me. You need me. You need me. Like a baby needs a toy. Like Hawaiians need their boy. Like a girlie needs a boy. Needs a string, like a queenie needs a king. You need me. You need us. You need us. Like a bee needs its buzz, like a peach needs its fuzz. So that's why you need us.
Where's my robot, you know?